Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how
Look
are
at
you?
what I'm having.
Oh my god, that glass was full when you logged on.
It wasn't
20 minutes
really
ago.
full. No. Well, I need some ice in it. I'm having a cocktail. It's one of those weeks.
It is one of those weeks.
You know what? Twice a year, I can have a little cocktail.
I think you could have one even 3 or 4 times a year. I think that's, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Trying to be healthy. I don't know if my health care is going to be there for me. I don't know what's going to happen with the health of the nation. So I'm trying to stay in my zone of taking care of myself. Today was a terrible day, though. On that note, I just, some chocolate, I'll take it. Some Chinese food, let's have it. I just had a day because it was sleeting. I don't know how the weather is for everybody else, but it was like, okay, that nice, long, warm, oh my God, the planet is burning alive. But isn't it so lovely? Extended fall is over. We had snow. We had a rainbow of snow because we had sleet. It was gorgeous. We always get the rainbow from our house because we look at the river. And so
it's good.
It is nice.
It's always nice to see a rainbow. Thanks, climate change.
Thanks, climate change.
Did you see they're sneaking it in that there's new terms of service for Instagram and Facebook now? They sneak it in on Friday afternoon. They're like, by the way, guys, we've updated our terms of service.
I missed it.
I'm reading this book about the making of the Middle Ages, and I was wondering how closely the terms of service are going to track to how to become a serf. Things. I feel like there's a lot there. I'm going to have to analyze it more because it came on again while people were moving out the door on Friday. Good job, Zuck. Smart move, man. Yeah.
Always with the finger on the pulse there.
He's, surfing the whatever he was doing in that.
Oh, always there with the finger on the pulse. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Surfing USA.
Surfing USA.
Perfect. Can't top that.
Perfect.
I think we just go home. Okay. So we don't want to keep our guests waiting.
We don't.
A really good guest tonight.
Should we get right into our show?
I think we should get into the topic.
We have a great guest tonight. This is a guest we have been trying to get on the show for a while. And we're just so excited to have her. I'm beside myself. She's just very busy person. So it'll be a great show. Let's get going. Let me go to our timers. Oh, for God's sakes, I reset my timer. Here we go. All right, Greg.
Well, the topic is dominoes. And what dominoes is it's sort of interesting, to those of us which is everybody watching this and us, all of us who knew what was coming a little bit. It's just interesting to watch all of the people that maybe didn't capitulate in real time. Even people way richer and way more powerful than us, just kind of bending the knee, kissing the ring. You had before the election, even, Bezos with that disgusting, Washington Post thing and the LA Times guy. And, these are just, it's kissing the ring.
First ones on the knees are the journalists or quote unquote news. It's
your friends
space. It's such a tricky space because we're really now in how do we wrap our arms around our institutions and try to be pillars underneath them to protect them from the attack. We went through that 8 years ago, the beginning of it, right? And had to have 4 years of the first thing where we're just hanging on there.
Mm-hmm.
And felt like, whoosh, okay, we kind of made it. Stuff is still intact. There's some cracks. There's some damage. There's poop on the walls. Let's clean it up. And whatever got cleaned up only got cleaned up so that they could just pew one by one, get down on the knees and grovel. So, I mean, the big one, I guess everybody knows about, and we watched it all week long since we were last on the air, was for I would think Democrats, right, or liberal leaning audiences, it was MSNBC's two big anchors, their morning anchors, Joe and Mika, choosing on their own to run down to Mar-a-Lago and kiss the ring. And it really was that. It was nothing. There's the argument that they're trying to backpedal on this whole thing. And so to say, well, we would never not have a communication or conversation. We would never close the doors. Our job is to keep all open lines of communication. It's like, actually, no, that's not your job. You're not diplomats. Yep. That's the job of diplomats. That might be what your daddy did, but that's not what you are. You're in the news, in the journalism business. They're TV hosts, right, of a show, of an entertainment show, clearly. But that's not what journalism is in any way, shape, or form. That's just not it. You don't have to go and kind of, let's be friends again. We're here. Hi, it's your friends.
It's not even like that. It's more like there's the expression going into Canossa.
Like, we're going to turn a page. They did the restart
right?
button. I did want to say that. They did that just so you have it, because I know you didn't watch it. They're like, we're turning the page. We're going to try to figure out how to start anew with him. That's literally what they said on air, and lost 41% of their audience.
Oh, they're going to reset. Like, that works well with Putin. They should take notes on that.
Yeah.
Putin's big on the reset. Maybe if we, next they'll look into his eyes and say that they can see into his soul and he's not evil. Remember when Bush said that?
I remember. Yeah. Okay. I remember it all.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to know what really happened and what was just some invention of this simulation that we find ourselves living in. But I've never watched that show, as you know. But I remember 8 years ago, there was a thing with them and Trump. It was weird. Like, they were weird with him. And then they and I may be remembering this wrong. This may be a simulation piece. So if I remembered it wrong, I apologize. But they sort of, after the election was over and everything, they were like, hey, we're dating, guys. And it seemed to me like that was something they were trying to keep on the QT, and maybe Donald knew about. So why am I going to watch that ever again? Like, I don't know. I was never going to watch it.
I didn't even know about these people. Like, I didn't watch it until it was like, oh my God, Donald Trump is the president and he's a fucking gangster, because I knew all that stuff. And I was like looking for what news is going to report on who this guy really is, and ended up watching that show because I had friends and family like, oh, you got to watch Morning Joe. I'm like, okay, I'll watch Morning Joe. Maybe they'll. So I missed all of that history. I really did. So I came late. You remember something you never really bought in. And it's not, who cares? It's just, these are what did I say to you? You're like, oh my God, why would they do that? And I said, because they're really fucking wealthy and they've got a big lifestyle. Like, that's just where my brain went. I don't know these people, but having been in a certain circle in Los Angeles for as long as I was, I know how important, how expensive that lifestyle is, especially if you have a bunch of young adults, you're putting through college, you're doing whatever, you've got multiple homes, you've got staff, you've got, like, I don't know. That's just, and then there was reporting that just today that's exactly what it was, but who knows? Who knows? You look at your burn rate. Those people have a burn rate. It's a couple $100,000 a month going out the door, right? So if they thought that tap was going to get shut off, that, who knows? Now Comcast is selling it off.
Right.
Comcast is selling off MSNBC. They're selling off the bits and pieces. That's not an accident, by the way. That's like, there's a lot of shuffling of very big pieces of not just our communication and our discourse, like our news media, but all things. There's like this great, these conglomerates that we ended up with. We allowed ourselves to be siloed industry-wise into these big conglomerates with just, a couple of big monsters owning everything. And Trump is coming in, and it's happening. Like they're like, break it, sell shit off. It's like a Mitt Romney, that he was the guy that came in and fired your dad, right? That's how he made all of his money. It's like that. We, sell off the pieces. Carl Icahn, this bullshit, right? That's happening. And to have that happen to our fact and investigative, news body of news, very, very concerning. And we'll talk to our guest about it, but I imagine sort of all par for the course of this era that we seem to be careening into no matter what.
Yeah.
It's very depressing.
It is, because they're, if not there, where, and journalism is important, obviously, like super important. And I know every time we bash the journalists, which we do a lot, we have to make sure and say that there are many journalists doing excellent work, especially the ones on the ground who are actually breaking the stories and doing the investigative stuff and who tell us what we need to know. But
and some of them are friends going, yeah, nobody will hire me anymore. It's like, oh my God.
Right.
It can't get those stories told. They won't publish it. They won't, like, I don't know, what we need to do here. But clearly we need something, and investing in, local journalism where it still stands is important. I was trying to figure out what newspaper do we want to come having into this house now. And the Boston Globe seems like a good one. But, I don't know.
It's all convoluted, because like the Wall Street Journal is an excellent newspaper, but the op-ed people are horrible. So, it's just, who knows? It's all mixed up. It depends on the person writing the article. It literally is that granular, which is why it's so exhausting.
It's exhausting. And where are the brave?
Yeah.
Where are the brave? Where are they?
Speaking of cowardice, hit the timer.
I'm getting it. I'm there. Go.
No, it's okay. So this segment is called Fall of Justice as opposed to Hall of Justice. And we've got a couple things to cover, I think. The first thing is and we've said it on here a lot. Hey, Trump is going to get sentenced in November. That's coming. Well, it is not. It is November, and it is not coming in November. So we find this out today. And I think, there's two things that I want to stress here. One good and one bad. The first thing is that it's not the complete disaster that your initial response seems to indicate. Because what's happening is Trump is trying to get it dismissed because they want to do something, and he wanted the thing to happen on December 20th. And Alvin Bragg said, fuck all that. No, we're not dismissing it. We're going to do this earlier. And the judge said, okay, we're going to do it earlier. So they're going to determine whether or not his immunity bullshit counts with this, which it doesn't, duh. And then there will be sentencing. So it's not necessarily Mershon being like, he's trying to do the things that he needs to do to get to the end of it. But there's no fucking way in hell he's going to put the guy in jail a month before he's going to get inaugurated as president of the United States. For a million different reasons. If he does, it would be amazing, and no one would love it more than me. But the guts that it would take to do that are astonishing. So that's the first thing. And I want to also, because we gave him a hard time when he first wasn't interested in hearing the case.
Well, he threw away a lot of cases, a huge amount of caseload against Donald.
Yeah.
He threw away a lot and went for this one. And everyone was like, why are you doing that? And it turned out it did have teeth. He did get
Alvin Bragg
convicted of 34 counts.
He hit his free throws. My friend Jessica Lappin was right that he was going to do it, and he was good. He wound up being good. And he's the only one in the whole country, apparently, who's trying to get this guy to go to jail. So shout out to New York City. But again, we're at the city level. We're at the municipal level of people that are trying to put this guy away. Now, the other thing, just to cheer everybody up a little bit, because I forgot about this. There's still the fraud case, right? They found that they were going to take $350 million away from Trump. They were going to confiscate that, and that's in appeal now. Now, that's going to be unappealed. It's going to come back at some point now that the election is over. Apparently, nobody really knows, but I don't think they're going to sit on that for 4 years. So they're going to take some amount of money from him. And I don't know. I don't think that they can be like, oh, well, he's the president. We can't take the estate in Westchester. Why does he need that? He's got the White House and more, So we'll see. That's still out there. And, he's already convicted in it. He's already a thing. And it's a money case. It's not a jail time case. So I think it's way more likely that they're going to not let it go away,
Well, listen, this whole bullshit of the arc of justice, the wheels of justice are long, but it arcs towards whatever.
Oh, no.
Shit.
It grinds. Okay.
No. You and I, on day fucking 1, as soon as that fucker Merrick Garland was confirmed, we said, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. And if whatever you're doing, start talking, start communicating. You don't have to give leaky, just do a daily press conference of like, just even say that justice is at work, justice, whatever it might be. You don't have to, compromise the case. And we took abuse for that from our friends even. Shut up.
People might compromise the case by saying that there's a case out.
Time kills all deals. In where you are in the middle and in the midst of a massive information war, a warfare that's being cooked up and launched from inside of military intelligence units of our adversaries, and how powerful that shit is, right? And they're handmaidens all over, of all different, talk about local, right? Our domestic motherfuckers, excuse my language, that are connected, right, to those services, engaging in, amplifying, corralling. They know what they're doing. They knew what they were doing then. They really know what they're doing now, right? When you're in the midst of that, if for justice to be like, well, we could take our time and, we have to be careful because we don't want to do a misstep or la, 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 la. All that happens is all of that weaponry pours into the hole, into the vacuum. And you've lost the minds of everybody. Everybody's forgotten about the insurrection even. They were like, well, okay, that was bad, but what is it? It's not that. It wasn't that bad. And eggs, price of eggs, right? This is, with every indictment, they needed to come fast and hard. And you know what? This isn't the Justice Department isn't the Bush Leagues.
Yeah.
It's like he came in there, Garland came in there and had absolutely no confidence in that department to act with speed. As if you're going to have, what? Matt Whitaker? Wait, no, he was gone. Matt Gaetz? No, he couldn't even get confirmed. No, you've got really seasoned prosecutors, people who know how to do their job. The FBI was already on this case. They were in there, right? So they know what's going on. They were in all these Oath Keeper groups and all these, You got it. Go. We watched it. We all watched it. We watched it in real time. You know who your witnesses are? Your witnesses are members of Congress. Nancy Pelosi is your witness. That's a pretty damn good witness. You're going to be okay. Move now. Indict him. Go. And they didn't. He didn't. And this is where we are. I'm sorry, folks. I really, really believe that. The fall of justice happened the second Merrick Garland went, I don't know.
Actually.
A little nervous. And yes, we could say there was all these things that happened beforehand to weaken that. But to have the person coming into that position after those events, especially that insurrection, be like, oh, I'm not sure. Big fucking mistake.
Something, if you're in favor, something, I don't know. What I was going to say before is that the wheels of justice grind slow, but they grind fine. And the thing that they grind is snorted by Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. That's what happens. It's just,
Maybe.
It's like
I just
pure
see him
Bolivian gold.
Did you see that video of Don Jr. reaching into his pocket and rubbing his teeth? Oh my God. Good Lord. Our poor guest must be mortified. We're talking about all this.
Well, let's, we can set this up now because I'm going to take the banner down for a second.
But listen,
okay, just go ahead.
Tell us what you're about to show us, Greg, because it's depressing, but it's chunk, so we can also enjoy it.
So we made this. This is from December 30th, 2022. So I'm doing the math right, is almost 2 full years ago, right? It's 1 year and 11 months ago. And it was about 1 month after Jack Smith was named special counsel.
Merrick Garland finally did something and named his special
counsel, and everyone was very excited. And then we
were not.
We made this.
There are Nazis in the street, and the law now lets them tweet. And the MAGA fascists hold the House and the court. Our democracy might die, 'cause the DOJ won't try and hold us on the crimes in the J6 report. But here's Jack Smith, though we're all so excited. At long last, Donald Trump will get indicted. 7 years is a long time to wait, but it's already New Year's Day. Why so much delay? After Comey, Mueller, Garland, and Wray, I won't get fooled again. Just call us when he's in cuffs.
Okay, well, he was indicted, so we got that. He never was in cuffs. I guess they couldn't find the cuffs small enough for his wrists. And now fascists takes on a new meaning. The Nazis are still in the street. And now it's not the House and the courts, it's also the Senate. So yeah, great. Great job, United States. Woohoo! Good. Really fantastic. Fantastic job. Okay. Our guest has worked in Georgia for the Georgian president, Moldova for the prime minister there, and the Baltics and Ukraine. She's a writer and lecturer on Russian interference and information warfare. She's been published in WAPO, Politico, Wired, and she has a great Substack called Great Power. Molly Mckew.
Molly Mckew!
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Yay.
Did
we scare you off? We didn't scare you off.
No, it's
okay.
Fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
Now, the Moldovan people had an election, and they rejected the Kremlin candidate, and we did not. So, what? Share your thoughts on that before we get into the other stuff we're going to talk about. Anything you want to say about that? Maybe because you were at it. You can take flowers for this too. I think you were there.
Not in this one. The Moldovans were all in this one on their own. I think like many of us, I've had some weeks of thinking about what happened in this election, and while I want to absorb all of the nice analysis about economic messaging and this thing and that thing, and it's who cares? Like, guy said what guy wants to do. People were like, okay. And it's that part that I'm having a really hard time with. And again, I see all the points on the other side. And I know the vast majority of Americans voting in this election were basically holding their nose and voting. Nobody was super excited about the choices or how we arrived at them or some piece of this process. But I think the part where, you can divide the country down the middle, and half of us look at the facts one way and are like, well, I guess I'll just go this way for now. And half of us look at the facts and look the other way and are like, well, this guy seems like he'll sort out the problems for now. I'm having a really hard time with how this process is happening, because while I still do not really think of myself as a Democrat, and there are many issues that the party approaches things on that I will never agree with, but what the hell? Like, when someone's like, hey, you know, it sounds like a great idea, concentration camps. And we would be the best if we could have the best concentration camps. And even though we tried it the first time and it was fucking horrific, and everybody's already forgotten like all the details of how fucking horrific the family separation, and purposefully horrific, in like a Russian military, like, let's torture the women and children because it makes our point about terror way. Like, and everybody's like, well, you know, yeah, I've heard there's too many migrants and we need to get rid of them. And what the fuck? Like, I just, the what the fuck sense I can sum up in one anecdote, which is I arrived in Lithuania the day after the election, having left Ukraine on the day of the election, and made the mistake of staying in the hotel where Americans would be, which is never the right choice. And while I was getting my Thai soup takeout, because I had a terrible cold, from the delivery guy, and speaking to him in English, obviously some American hanging outside the hotel smoking, was like, oh, hey, where are you from? And you're like, oh, fuck, like, I really want to have this conversation today. And I was like, you know, Idaho, blah, blah. And yeah, how about that election, he says. And I'm like, I'm really going to get into a conversation about politics with a random dude on the other side of the world. I was like, yeah, you know, what are you going to do? Like, it'd be a neutral comment either way. But turns out, long story short, the guy is Puerto Rican, but a Trump voter, because he was in somewhere near the border and there were like homeless migrants. And he really thinks Trump is going to clean up the homeless migrants, because the homeless migrants are really a problem. And, you know, he's great for the economy. And I'm just like listening to this guy talk. And I was like, but you heard the stuff he said, right? And I was like, well, but I think he's going to be really good for the economy. And it's like, okay, just like got in the elevator. I mean, people are deciding not to look at the stuff they don't want to look at. And not in normal political ways. There's always features of candidates that you are not excited about. But they told you what the policies were going to be. And aside from the horror part, they told you they're going to make a whole series of crazy economic policy decisions that will benefit guys who are already making like $40 billion a day since Donald Trump got elected, just because money is conjuring itself from the air. And the rest of us are going to have to eat some of it. And it's like, okay, but you're already not paying taxes, and like, we're paying the taxes. Like, the middle class of America is paying all the taxes, and now we're going to have to tighten our belts. Cool. Great economic policy. But like, everybody is eating this shit. No, we don't want the government to give us healthcare or education. Why should anybody be educated? We should just drop out of school and work in the fucking factories. What factories? It is the 21st fucking century. Like, I don't know how people are so far down. And I do mean this on the both sides situation in this case. People are so far down the rabbit holes of shit they want to listen to that when presented with the reality of the choices they're making, they just like conjure stories from the air about what that's going to mean. And I don't even know what's going to happen now in this country, is kind of the very dour way of saying that with too much words. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, that was a very good answer. Thank you.
It's a very good answer. While you were talking, I was reminded there was something I was working with a CNN producer once to try to find this, because I thought I saw it on CNN. This was back when Egypt fell apart.
The Tahrir Square falling apart? Yeah.
Right before that. And
not Pharaoh. Right.
No, in my
it's
lifetime.
had many falling apart moments, but the big protest one.
The big protests and all, but also when they're, you know, they just had a democracy and it really was gone, right? And there was a woman about my age sitting in a cafe, and she was interviewed like sort of on the street. What about what's happening here? And she goes, I don't know what happened. You know, we just lost it. And it struck me because she was just really like present to like, how did that happen? And we did it to ourselves. She said, we just threw away our country. And I don't know how that happened. And she was just in that moment. And it really struck me. It went right into my brain. I was like, oh my God, what's she talking about? And this was before we had Donald senior, the senior. And it just, what you just said reminded me of that again, of like, they're so detached from their own nation and what it means to be part of the nation and their agency in this nation. They're so detached from it that it's going to hit them. I do think it's going to hit people like a train out of nowhere. It's going to be like, wait a minute, what happened? I had health care. What happened to that? What? I can't take my kids to public school? What is this? They're going to, the food I put in my mouth is poisoned because there's no regulations. They have no idea these things are professing to want, what it actually means when it occurs in reality. It's completely divorced from it.
I worry actually that they do, and they think they want it. And it's like people who have watched all 14 spin-off series of The Walking Dead, and they're like, actually, that would be a better and much more simple way to live. And you're like, sure, except for the part where you need a bat wrapped in barbed wire to beat people's heads in all the time. And I think that it's the bat wrapped in barbed wire that is really appealing to a lot of these people. It's like, oh, my agency is that I could just exert violence to get things that I want. And it's a much too simple way of describing this phenomenon that is happening. But this like description you see coming out of the Muskosphere broskies that is like, oh yeah, the economy is absolutely going to fucking tank. And it's going to hurt for a while, and everybody's going to have to sacrifice, meaning you human ants will have to sacrifice while we, the ant queens, live up here in our spaceships while you feed us. And they're describing this very clearly. And it's like, essentially, it's like down to the super Darwinian survivalist, like the strong will survive, the warrior bros will survive, and they will protect their women and children. And everybody else, like, fuck off and don't die of measles. It's like, people kind of think this sounds like fun, I guess, because living in a safe, normal country where the government has some vague responsibility for some aspects of public well-being seems like it's giving up liberty.
Well, we've romanticized the hero narrative to a degree, culturally, to a degree that I do think it's part of that detachment, right? Of like thinking I'm going to be like a character in The Walking Dead. And it doesn't look like that. It's not going to be that way.
Nobody's going to be dirty and smelly and angry and hungry all the time. And I think everybody thinks that's going to be just fine. But the rest of the world, just to be clear to Americans, as the richest and in theory most developed nation on earth, doesn't live that way. They have healthcare. They have access to much cheaper education, which is good, and is increasingly better than ours because we're so busy with this, like, states have the right to teach you about fucking wagon wheels instead of science. And you're like, great, amazing, let's learn more about wagon wheels. Because I learned a lot about wagon wheels growing up in Idaho, but also science, just to be clear. So I just like, people don't understand how badly we live as a rich fucking nation, and we don't need to. And it's not socialism, it's not Marxism, like space communists are not going to come and eat your face. It's actually just how government needs to work to ensure that we have a competitive workforce that allows us to remain the dominant, innovative nation on Earth, so we can continue to live in this safe, comfortable way that we live, where we don't have to give a shit about anything, ever, apparently. And like, for me, it's just so hard after this election, because what I want to do is not think at all about what's happening in this country, ever. I just want to go and do the stuff that I do in other places and worry about right now how we deal with Russia. And the thing where Americans like don't understand how absolutely critical this American island is as the centerpiece of actual freedom in the world most of the time. It's not that other countries aren't free and strong and have functioning, vibrant democracies. They absolutely do. But the piece where we have this giant economic engine connected to our democracy and this giant fucking military machine connected to our democracy, and thus have the ability to enforce the idea that democracy, aka individuals matter and are not human ants, in the world, is the only reason it ever flourished or still exists. And we just sit here like it's this given thing, and we can go to our fucking Walking Dead camps and it's all going to be great. And like, it's not going to be great, guys. People's going to take they're not going to leave us alone in our decaying Walking Dead society. They're going to take all our stuff from us and eat our children. Like, what
We're
the
trust
fuck
fund
are people
babies.
thinking?
Oh, we're a nation of trust fund babies.
If you're gonna try to emulate the actor in Walking Dead, emulate him in Love Actually, where he's trying to woo Keira Knightley by making those signs up.
Yes.
That would be a lot more fun than killing zombies or whatever. I've never understood, to your point, Molly, why the idea of healthcare, like good universal healthcare, as a national defense thing and as an entrepreneurship thing, isn't like a thing. Nobody ever argues that, and it's really infuriating because the job of the executives is to keep us safe, right? Why doesn't that extend also to like plagues and illnesses and being bankrupt from financial state? It doesn't make any sense. It's just silly. But
apparently we don't believe germs exist anymore because we're far back into the miasma of crazy.
Only if you're going to be Secretary of Defense, though. That's the thing.
Do we know if RFK believes in germs? I'm not actually sure.
I don't know. I don't know if he believes in.
He believes in
viruses. I don't think he believes in. This is a rough run for me because I was around this guy in 2005, and he was.
Did you get brainworms?
He has there was no discussion of brainworm, but there was discussion then, and he was the one who started it, and it went like wildfire. I mean, he knew who to say it to and how to argue it, and he was standing in kitchens and arguing that vaccines cause autism, and that's why all of these very wealthy elite families were starting to have children that had autism. It had nothing to do with, this is the way the diagnosis is, and probably you're autistic too, and it just, you were just getting better with the diagnosis. It wasn't any of that. It was, Mercury is coming to get you. And he had a lot of charm, and he influenced a lot of very powerful people. And they kind of kept him in that spot. And remember, he started with the environmentalism, and that was really important. That was key to that particular group, to getting in and staying in. He had the Kennedy name, but this was a group that cared very much about environmental activism, a social group that I watched him come into. And he came in that way and started talking about vaccines. And it was like, what are you doing? So he's always been bizarre. He's always been traveling to the Kremlin, quite frankly. He was coming back from a trip there. He's always had a stance of authority on medical science without any depth to it at all, or experience at all, but coming in with like a mantle, like, I know this because I just came back and I just met with all of these great scientists, and this is what they told me. That kind of
what you don't know is that the brainworm has a PhD in biochemistry. I don't know.
Oh, that's what it is.
Does he have like a monocle?
The brainworm. He needs a monocle. That brainworm.
He does. You can look it up on JSTOR. What's that site that you could go? Right. So okay. So I want to talk. You mentioned Putin and all this stuff before. So, just to bring it back to rosy topics, but we should talk about Ukraine a little bit, because I feel like the Ukraine thing has been so frustrating because, you know, once the October 7th happened, all of the attention went there and away from Ukraine. And I knew in the moment that it was going to be bad for Ukraine when this happened. Yeah. And right now, Zelensky's faced with a situation where, you know, Trump is going to come in and immediately probably pull the plug. And Biden has very reluctantly loosened some of the reins, maybe. And he's going around, Zelensky is trying to, you know, get the Europeans to help him. What's your take on what's happening there now? And what can we do to help him? And what do you think Biden should do right now to help?
The $4 trillion question.
Yeah.
What is Joe Biden doing?
Well, he's not going to do it, but what should he be doing?
I think continuing down the list of things, they're very slowly working their way down as fast as possible. To spend out the money that's already been appropriated and is sitting in a pile somewhere, and to frankly dispatch stuff to Ukraine that we should have sent them as excess defense articles on like the second day of the war. I mean, these anti-personnel mines that were just authorized for transfer to Ukraine, those mines and the cluster munitions that we keep in our arsenal. And of course, these are very controversial weapons because they spray things at people or tanks to blow them up. And many of them don't blow up. Ours are okay. Other people's manufacture not so good. And they stay as unexploded ordnance, and you have to clean them up after wars. And nobody likes unexploded ordnance in farmland for the most part. Like, obviously, these things are controversial. But the reason the United States never signed the conventions against these weapons is for one reason. Because we knew we were going to have to fight armies in land wars like Russia and fucking North Korea. And so if someone is fighting a land war with Russia, all of those weapons, which we don't produce anymore and will not use in any situation except fighting a land war with Russia, should go to the army fighting the land war with Russia. Like, why was this ever fucking hard? And the slowness with which these decisions were made, and the number of times you heard the Secretary of Defense and others say things to the effect of, we have assessed that at this phase of the war, the Ukrainians don't need this weapon. Well, how many of your cousins are dead? I mean, it's just the way the math has been done in the decision-making on this is absolutely fucking flawed and based on 30 years of getting the Kremlin fucking wrong. And it is not just this administration. I am not just dumping on these people, although these same people who thought the reset was a good idea and have never had to own it because in between we had Trump and it was all chaos, chaos, chaos. So there was absolutely no assessment of how bad the Obama administration's foreign policy was. And it was. Terrible. It was bad. I don't care how much you liked Obama or his domestic legacy.
To Crimea. Pan to Crimea. Cut to Crimea.
Absolutely an abominable foreign policy. And we never have had to own that. And the same people who talk about that are like, oh, they're writing books about Hong Kong freedom. And now they're talking about Ukraine. Shut up. Like, shut up. You have nothing to contribute to this conversation. And we are still living in all the parties for the most part. There are very few singular individuals who have removed themselves from this box of Kremlin smoke and mirrors in the way that before really only John McCain had, and understand what we're facing. But all of our calculation is still based on the wrong assessment of Russia, its intentions, its goals, that has guided our policy since the 90s. And it was all wrong. It was all wrong. Like, it was just illusion. And we're still believing the Russian illusion and making stupid decisions based on the wrong assessment. And that is an oversimplified way of explaining a very complex topic. But everything we've done since 6 fucking months before the February 2022 invasion, when we knew it was going to happen, which was nothing, we did nothing to stop it, has been wrong. And that is a body count of Ukrainians that, like, let's just leave the almost 1 million dead Russians aside. Like, the body count of Ukrainians in this war and Ukrainian civilians is something we will have to account for someday. And I would really like it to not continue to climb so quickly. And that means sending all the stuff to Ukraine and sending everything we can before the end of this administration. Because while I am not sure that Trump is going to be able to walk away on the first day or force a negotiation or any of the other things he's going to do, he's just going to tweak everyone's balls to try to look like a big dude. But like, we need to give the Ukrainians everything they can because they can win if we help them. And the Europeans, while there is a big divide in Europe and it's not a fair unitary term anymore, in general, the Europeans do not have the defense capability to take our place right now. And none of us, including the United States, are making enough munitions and enough weapons, given the likely challenges we are going to face in the next decade.
Yep. Swell.
Okay.
Swell.
And maybe Trump will do that. Maybe Trump will do that.
Do you think Putin? Do you think Biden should send troops there right now?
What we should have done, especially when we knew that they were going to do this thing, was essentially just draw a line and at the very least give the western part of Ukraine air defense and say, anything comes in here, we're shooting the skies. We're shooting this stuff down, guys. Sorry. And we could still do that. And that would mean that Western Ukraine is a safe space for civilians. It is a safe space for training mobilized soldiers. It is a safe space for reassembling units that need to be restocked up on personnel and equipment. It is a safe space for us to have personnel working on training, contractors doing things like repairing equipment and training Ukrainian engineers and others to work on all the weapon systems that we have sent in. We could do that right now and it would make an enormous difference. But again, I would just say we have and this is just the United States, an entire Special Operations Forces group. The 10th group, Special Forces 10th group, exist to do this work against Russia. And the fact that our guys have not been allowed to do the thing they were created for in the 60s, which is to fight this war with Russia or to help their partner force, which is the Ukrainian Special Forces guys who have been doing amazing work, do their work more effectively. There's a lot of ways that NATO could help Ukraine, even not fighting, but with specific fighting capabilities. There's a lot more that we can do. And this pretend we can't escalate. Come on, every day Russia is escalating and we're just sitting there like a lump. And I'm not saying that we should engage in the escalation ladder in a way that would be tragic, but it is nonsense. The idea that escalation management has worked in this particular war. All we're letting Russia do is have time to eke out something that looks like victory when they never should have had that chance.
Amen. Yep.
Well, they're not zombies, and so what can we do, right? I mean, I see you're sitting there talking about NATO and the fourth. I'm thinking about the World War Z. We've gone from Walking Dead to World War Z, and there is no Brad Pitt that can just come up with a solution out of thin air.
Have we?
Well, it's what you were saying earlier, which is where are the fucking brave people? It was, one of the best John McCain little quotes ever was just be brave, the rest is easy. And it really is. I think it was for him that simple. Was just do the thing that is brave and that will be right. And he didn't always do that, and he hated himself for it. But on foreign policy, he was pretty good at it. But be brave and the rest is easy. And where are the fucking brave people? And there have been brave people in the context of European leaders trying to collectivize action for Ukraine during this war. There's been really good small country leadership, especially countries that have previously been occupied by Russia and know how much it fucking sucks to have your family deported and tortured and whatever else. And the fact that we're still pretty laid back about all this is just disappointing to me. This should not be, especially given where we were in the first few months of the war, and apparently this dumb era we're going to live in when everybody looks at polls and makes policy based on polls. Americans understand this war. They understood at the beginning, Russia bad, Ukraine good, invading a country bad, fighting for your freedom good. And there was wild public support in a bipartisan way for American support for Ukraine. And the administration asked us fucking nothing. You might have to pay more for gas. What the fuck? Tell people that this is going to be something we have to do and that it's going to take time. The way that the Estonians have had to go to their population and say, hey, we're increasing taxes for 2 years because we need to stockpile $2 billion of ammunition in case the Russians invade us because we saw what happened to Ukraine and we need to have the stuff here. We're not waiting for anybody else. I mean, where's the leadership in this country talking to people about the decisions we're making and how they affect us? It is not easy. Everything should not be easy and free. Magic money is not going to fall from the air just because you're talking on YouTube or whatever. This country needs to suck it up and understand that we are losing in competition. We are losing our position. We are losing our edge in the world. because we're electing dummies to run us for the most part. There's too many dummies in charge of stuff, and we decide that this is like okay, like ooh, they're just a guy like me, so it will be fine. No, want people who are better. Like,
yes.
Where are the better people? Okay, not everybody is perfect, and not everybody needs to have a degree from Harvard and Yale, since clearly these people are often the problem. But like, where are the smart people from state schools who have good ideas about actually governing, as opposed to just like
we're regulated to YouTube. We have been regulated.
I'm fine with YouTube.
Here.
YouTube is
relegated, regulated and relegated.
I think we should just put it on the blockchain and then we'll be fine, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, it's just a vote on our phone. Should we go to war with Ukraine? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, just a big poll,
Well, I want to pivot from that into with the same sentiment. Okay, so it's there's so much that's on us, right? Now, we all believed, okay, it's on us as voters, and we're the final sort of firewall. And that didn't work out so great. Where it turns out, no, we're not. But what can we do? You do have quite a lot of expertise in the information space, and what works, what doesn't work. From framing to just not getting pulled into distractions, to understanding where disinformation and misinformation has come from, to understanding the difference between those things and weaponized propaganda, like the dangerousness of that. So what can we, so here we are, Greg and I have, some kind of voice, some kind of platform. We've got our audience here. They're great. They're on the socials. What can we do that we're not doing? What have we done? What did we do wrong before? And what did we do right?
I mean,
three different things there.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I'll directly answer the questions in a neat way. Okay. But what I would say is, I will answer them, but not in an organized way. What I would say is,
it's okay.
Online community is important, and having networks that can operate amongst themselves and amplify messages is really critical. And we've seen that in the context of Ukraine, both in terms of strictly messaging, which has been really important for organizing international support, both individuals donating to Ukraine and states feeling pressure to send stuff to Ukraine. And we've seen that in the context of American political mobilization on both sides. People feel very engaged in their networks. What I would say is also then the problem with this stuff, this engagement stuff, is it is like an episode of Black Mirror, and you're supposed to just sit there pressing the buttons and hoping that it's all like, oh, I sent an angry tweet and now America is safe. It's not. And I think the message that we're seeing from the other side is what they are telling us is you are on your own to fix it. It has been the message from the core of the more extremist part of the Conservative Party for 40 years. It has now taken over the body of the electorate from that side, which is this idea that government should do nothing for you, and it will not, mostly. So prepare for that. And in the good and bad ways, be prepared for managing crisis on your own. I think all of us should always be doing it in the Red Dawn way, not the Walking Dead way. But, our country doesn't really give a shit about civil preparedness in any way. Other countries do, and they print their stuff in English. Look at the Swedish manual, look at the Finnish manual, look at the materials published by the Lithuanians. Like, what should you actually be thinking through in terms of preparation for crisis, especially in the context of like hybrid attacks? There's lots of things you can do on the strictly crisis preparedness side. But this other piece, which is the engagement in the online life is illusion, and it does not matter beyond the organization in the most basic form, we all need to understand a bit more, which is to say communities need to do things. There was a good op-ed from I think it was in the Mississippi Free Press or something like this. But from a dude who was basically like, okay, bros, we all voted to not have government. So you Mr. Warrior Man, need to step up. And what are you doing to save your community when there's nobody coming to save you? And I think thinking in that way is important for two ways. One, we are going to need safety nets that are going to start disappearing. And I don't think people are prepared for this. We live in a country where even if you don't like the police on the right wing or left wing sense of that, it is there when it is needed. Even if you don't want the government, quote unquote, to do things, it responds to crisis. It finds ways to solve problems. If the bridge collapses, it gets rebuilt, you know, these types of things. Just like everybody needs to be more comfortable with the idea that the government is not going to solve the crisis because it's telling you it's not going to. And whether that's true or not, you better fucking listen. And I think that also means the positive version of that very negative space is just fucking take action on your own. Assume that there is not going to be anybody else doing it, whatever the it is, and do it yourself. Because right now, the reason that really disruptive and destructive forces are dominating so heavily in our American political life is that they are offline also organizing in ways that no one is paying attention to. And understanding that all of that action matters, that you can change things while no one is paying attention to what the hell is going on. Is a tactic and a strategy that I think more Americans need to be prepared to embrace. Not in a disruptive, burn the government down way, by the way, but in a, there are ways to fix your community, to change laws, to organize action, to protect your neighborhood, whatever it is, that don't involve waiting for some imagined city council somewhere to fix the problems for you. We in DC have gotten quite good at this, as our government in this city is always moderately dysfunctional, since any member of Congress can like reach in and do something crazy anytime they feel like it. There's a lot of community-based organization and action just to make basic stuff function, which is hard to see from outside the city. But I think those two things, kind of thinking what it means when government stops doing what you expect it to do, understanding what that's actually going to mean for you, your family, your social safety net sense, which you're not going to call that in your head. Like, you're not a person who ever needs help, of course, but you know, if there's another pandemic, is anybody going to make you a vaccine? Like, it's a pretty fair question at this point with the people we have lined up in front of us. Are they going to pay for that vaccine? Good question. I don't know. I think really embracing the idea that we may be living in not the Walking Dead world, but some version of a semi-functional, non-government based universe is where we're headed toward right now, unless things really change. And I don't mean this in a it's all over, like we're doomed way,
right? But
you got to start thinking about the tactics of how you repair it now before it is actually too late. And I'm so frustrated, again, not as a Democrat, I can't really criticize the Democratic Party, but like, where's the fucking Democrats for Sheriffs campaign? Like, every sheriff position in the country is occupied by a person with a QAnon mug. Okay, not every, but let's call it 80%, right?
Not the one in Ulster County, New York, I have to say.
There you go. Like where are the run for things people that are pointing everyone toward these very strategic jobs? I don't know, but yeah. I'm very frustrated about everything that just happened in this election, and I really don't think we as a country are ready for what we have just voted
done to ourselves
for. Yeah.
This is I thought the first Donald Sr. presidency was the greatest self-inflicted error of all time, but this is
I'm really split.
Self-sabotage like this is just insane.
It is subversion, and but like for me, I'm really split, and it is not, everything is not Russia's fault. That is not at all what I am saying.
Right.
But you cannot say that for the last decade adversaries, and it is no longer just the Russians, but have been able to exert all sorts of strange psychological operations through the American information domain, often informed by the participation of bad Americans who are helping them.
Yeah.
And that hasn't had some impact on the basic cognitive wellness of the nation. And I think there is this problem because most of the disinformation machinery was targeted toward English. Like, you see this bleed from American crazy to other places. Like, suddenly everybody knows what QAnon is. Like, the Canadians have QAnon people. There really is a problem in English-speaking countries. If you look at, I mean, New Zealand a bit accepted, but this bizarre, none of us have any ability to assess reality anymore voter trend is not limited just to the United States. And I do think it is hard to pry apart what is the overall cognitive impact of what has been done to all of us online, and then how our own press has emulated those tactics, mostly not understanding what they're doing. So it's like, you can't just blame people for this "I don't care anymore, I'm voting for the clown" sentiment, because I do think there's more forces at work, but I'm also still very sad about the way
how we fell to that, right? How people fell for talking about dominoes. However, we do have RFK Jr. in charge of our mental health now as well, so I'm sure it will all work out just fine. Sure, we're gonna be okay.
If the English language
has a cat,
I blame Shakespeare. What's your cat's name?
He's Ferdinand.
Oh, that's a great cat name.
Because he's fluffy.
I love it.
Oh, he's wonderful.
He's the best.
He wants to be in the show.
He's a very old man.
Oh.
Yes, you are an old man, aren't you, buddy? Yes, you are.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's make him president. We can't.
Yeah.
He would be a great president. Are you kidding?
Fantastic
president, this cat.
It can't be much worse. It's self-inflicted wound. Oh my goodness. It's just
he's awake more hours of the day for sure.
Oh, Molly.
Yeah, I feel like, do you have any more questions, LB? Because I feel like it's more important to talk to her than to talk about this BB business.
Yeah, I feel that same way too. We'll just say it real quick. You're in our fourth segment, and here's our fourth segment, and then we're gonna go pivot to something else. Is just a little news alert. Bibi Netanyahu was, for those of you who don't know, was an arrest warrant coming out of the ICC, as well as for other players, for Hamas players and other people in Bibi's realm. And it's sort of up now to the world to figure out who would actually arrest him. Maybe he'll just stay in Israel and he won't face an arrest. I don't know. France is not saying anything. I think Great Britain is kind of like, I'm not sure. Couple of places have said they would. United States is saying, our administration is saying, oh, we can't believe this because we're not part of the ICC anyway. So anyway, that happened. And Bolsonaro got, because when he tried to have his own sort of version of January 6th, the immediate action was taken by the Justice Department as quickly as they could in Brazil to bring charges against him. And so, there's consequences that guy is facing in Brazil. And it looks like in terms of BRICS, everybody else in that acronym is sort of like, yeah, we don't know that guy. He's the coffee guy. We just had him go get coffee. I don't think anybody's coming to Bolsonaro's defense, but we'll see. We'll see. But, so we have this accountability trying to happen in various ways for some of these strong men that mankind has chosen to elevate once again. I don't know. That's the news. That's my.
I was going to say, pivoting on that, because we don't need to talk about this. Now, Molly, you've worked in countries where the democracies are fragile, And I feel like that's something that people here who don't know history don't appreciate, just how rare it is to be living in this era of peace and prosperity. It's historically such a blip. But you've been in these places where they're new democracies. They're democracies that are struggling against foreign intervention. What do you think? Like, Trump's coming to power now. There's all this. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. There's Project 2025. There's day one dictator. Blah, 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 blah. What do you think he's going to do? Like, what should we be looking for? What are like the things that you're like, oh shit, he's done this thing. Fuck. Like, that's what I want to know.
I think if this time, so the thing that really helped us in the first Trump administration is there weren't actually competent people to do policy work and who understood process. Like, actually enacting a crazy idea, a good idea, whatever it is extremely difficult in any government situation. So it seems this time there's more preparation, certainly more lawyers who have been thinking about, if we want to do X thing, here's the 20-page memo on how we would do it. Right. And mostly obviously focused on what they can do with executive orders, what they can do with Trump tweeting it out or whatever. So I do worry a bit more about, like, do they actually have the people to get the crazy things done this time? For me, the big red line for are we actually going to do this or not will be if Trump activates any form of the big army as part of a domestic anything force, and or nationalizes
even the National Guard,
like, and or nationalizes any part of the National Guard in order to do domestic work on deportations or rounding up people or anything else. Kind of the whole reason we had a revolution was so these things wouldn't happen in a way that we're comfortable with, which is why we also have the Second Amendment, so that when the government decides to do things like this, we don't just have to watch it. I am not advocating taking up arms against the U.S. Army if it is activated in this country. All I'm saying is, historically, we understand that our military being used against our own people is not good. And there have been instances where the National Guard has been used for the enforcement of peace or other things, but in various points in history that we don't need to go into right now. But I think if we really are going to do this thing where our army, which should be doing other things, other places that we are spending a lot of money for them to do, is actually just here in the United States acting like cops or border agents or whatever, we should have a lot of questions about that. About the money, about why, about what the symbol of it is, about why none of us are doing anything about it, about what that's doing to our military, about what that's doing to our society, about the rifts that's creating in our military, and how do you repair that or don't. There's just, it's like, from there, it's just like dead turtles all the way down, in my opinion, if the military is used for any of these vaguely nonsensical goals.
Okay, so I believe it's going to happen on day one, because he said, this is what I'm doing on day one. And he's trying to get the people in there, and I think will succeed, that can make this happen on. This was the big promise that he won on. So
it also polls very popularly, which is really, really, really depressing.
So it's very, very dark. I guess the question is, what do we do? Because I don't know what we can do other than stand by and watch it.
In domestic polling, because the military is one of the few institutions that we still have respect for. And that won't be the case if they're, like, in our neighborhoods arresting our neighbors. And I think that the people making these decisions need to understand that. And again, like, just speaking to the psychology of soldiers, like, our dudes and ladies in uniform have been so heavily targeted by all of the information shit. And our adversaries know how to target them and have been doing it, and it's very obvious. And, like, everybody keeps warning the Pentagon that this is a thing that's happening, and they're like, whatever, information protection when they deploy. It's like, no, that's not the thing. Like, there's recruitment and collection happening online, and maybe we should give a shit.
They can't even stop Fox News from being on the bases. It's like,
well,
They won't
for
even pull
complex
that
reasons.
plug.
But well, you can't interfere in people's political life. But
I'm talking about things that they're playing on their own. Like, I'm not talking about individuals seeking out their own news source. I'm talking about it doesn't matter.
I know, but like, so for me, that's going to be a big, and mostly because like all the other stuff makes everybody else think we're crazy. And I think, again, this thing where like Americans never really or rarely go out in the world and then turn around and look back inward, to understand how fucking far out of alignment we are with the rest of the developed world and our allies on a lot of major issues. And some of it is political-ish stuff, such as the idea that healthcare should be something a government provides for people so your country is able to be competitive and defend itself. Like, we don't understand we're paying more than the rest of the world for shitty healthcare because we're letting companies extract money from us in insane ways. Like, okay, we've decided not to understand that. Fine. Leave that whole basket of things aside, which everybody thinks we're crazy for. And understand that on a lot of basic policy issues, these things where the US has had manufactured political debate, you know, where we're not sure if the data is there for climate. Well, the rest of the world is pretty sure that the data is there for climate change. And the way that we make decisions about things is different than everybody else. And our allies are sort of like, oh, the Americans again. And we've kind of done that same thing to our allies on defense stuff for a long time, because kind of the deal after World War II was, we'll keep the big giant fucking army and you guys can rebuild the rubble of Europe. And like, we'll work it out. Like, this is just going to be how it is for a while. Like, we need to rebalance as alliances on these different issues where we've been sort of burden sharing, but now we're all resenting each other for it. There's a lot of things we need to do in this regard. But I think if our allies are looking in at us and seeing, okay, we have to issue health warnings because we can't let our people go visit the United States because everybody's getting measles. If our allies are looking at us and thinking, well, you know, like, there's crazy shit happening all over the place and the army is being deployed to do basic functions, what the hell is happening? Again, that fracture of the American island, which is so much more important than any of us understand it to be, it will have devastating effects. And like, I just need everybody to understand this is the next however many years, the period during which the next world order, for some time, who knows how long it will last, is being formed. And so the guys we have right now, which unfortunately includes Donald Trump, who doesn't even know what that is, and again, maybe he'll figure it out. Maybe
he will
be
not.
A genius at it.
Spoiler alert, he will not.
These allies,
But
he has his allies, and it's not the ones that we have from NATO. He's been so clear about that since the 70s.
I agree, and I am not blowing roses about our prospects here. My point is, the guys that are there now, and that includes the European leaders, includes the leaders in Japan and South Korea and Australia and our other like further away treaty allies, who have been really important in these last periods for a whole variety of reasons, and will be increasingly important and when we look at the adversaries we're facing in this next period. The people in charge now are the people who are making these decisions. Like, there's no redo. Like, we made the choice. These are the people we have. And so ensuring that we are doing what we can to make it clear what we expect those decisions to be actually does still matter. And it is not so simple as to just believe you're the guy who's going to go shake Putin's hand and get what you want. You want to know what Putin does for people who are giving him stuff? Absolutely fucking nothing. Like, if you give Vladimir Putin something, you're not getting anything in return because he knows you're going to keep giving him stuff.
That's
so
right.
You can
the only
be
thing
the guy
he
who
understands is a
doesn't
fist under his
understand that.
nose.
Yeah.
You can be the guy who doesn't understand that and embarrass yourself for another 4 years, or you can actually be the tough guy you think you are and do something about it. And it's going to be a weird period. I think especially for any U.S. administration, this would be a weird period because you have 2 arrest warrants for leaders issued by the ICC, and one is Vladimir Putin, who absolutely should be in a fucking cage and put on trial, if not killed by someone on the way there. and the other is the leader of Israel. And everybody is going to try to make these equivalent things. And let me just tell you, the second one really makes the first one a lot harder. And Putin knows that, and he's been laughing since October 7th, which I don't think is an unconnected thing.
It's his birthday, for God's sake. It's his fucking birthday.
I mean, Russia has had a long, long relationship with Hamas and Hezbollah. None of these things are surprising. But, and he's paired, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to Mongolia and see what happens, right when Bibi was also coming to the States. Like, he knows how to do this thing where absolutely no one can come for him. And so the next president of the United States, being Donald J. Trump, apparently, can do something. Or he can be the number 2 or 3 in an order of goons. And that's kind of what the choice is. And I think when you're talking about the information domain we live in, that's a thing he needs to understand and doesn't yet. And not in the let's make a cartoon about it, Donald Trump is Putin's dog on a leash way. It is a real message of, do you want to be a great leader in a moment when you suddenly decided to become president? Or do you want to be this guy who is laughed at as the junior partner of world autocrats? And it is the time we are forming the next thing. Like, it's now. Like, these are the guys we have. It's almost mostly all guys. There are some ladies, but mostly in Europe. But these are the guys we have, and we somehow have to figure out, because otherwise, human
ants. It's a perfect segue into our final segment.
Wait, but we have to
have our announcements, but it's a perfect place to leave us because,
You've done yeoman's work here, staying up late, because I know you're jet lagged, and jet lag, in my experience, coming back from Europe is harder than going there.
I have my magic Ukrainian thermos, which will.
Well,
that's why the thing.
It's magic.
Quickly, the what you said about. I feel like when I'm in Europe, if I have to explain why we do some dumb thing, that's probably bad. Like, did Hillary Clinton win? Yes, she won the popular vote, but we have the Electoral College, and that's just stupid. Just
I know. I was laughing when I was in Europe because they take things like plastic is bad very seriously, because plastic is fucking bad, and if there's like plastic inside our babies when they're born, probably plastic is bad, and so now they're doing as much as they can to make sure that all plastic gets properly disposed of or recycled. So on the bottles, like water bottles, Coke bottles, whatever, there's like a little thing. So when you open the cap, you don't actually take the cap off, right? It's like still attached so that it still gets recycled with the rest of the bottle. And when I saw, it's a totally good idea, right? Like no caps end up in the trash. And when I saw it, I just started laughing. And the person I was at dinner with was like, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, "Americans would go absolutely fucking crazy if you did this to their bottles." And they were like, "It's so funny. There was all this polling here. Like, are you angry about the new caps?" And everybody was like, "No, it makes sense." And I was like, man, I wish I lived in a country where that would be the outcome. Like, it makes sense.
You do not. It is not. I recall the George Carlin bit where he was like, "For all we know, Mother Nature put us here to invent plastic." That's the thing. So, okay, so we do announcements before the 5th segment. So we're going to do announcements because I want you to tell everybody about your Substack. So, and where to find you on Blue Sky as we're all migrating away from Elon's hell site.
That's right.
The fucking hell site. Well, I'm on Blue Sky, same handle, at Molly Mckew whatever it is.
Blue Sky.
Social. Yeah, none of us know, just Molly Mckew, one word. And my Substack is greatpower.us. I will have a piece up probably tomorrow or Sunday on Ukraine, and then another one before Thanksgiving, because I think Thanksgiving is an important American holiday, and I like to commemorate it. So I'll have a couple pieces up this week, and have a few recent ones up on Ukraine as well. And otherwise, I'm still on Twitter, but and I will never be on any Meta. So,
Je ne Zuckerberg pa. Yeah, that's the
No,
Okay. Yeah.
it's not going to happen.
So this was fantastic. Thank you for staying up late with us because we appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you, Molly.
Have a good evening.
Get some rest.
Okay. She's great. That was great.
She's the
I
best.
feel like we brought this was good. Now we're going to talk about something dumb to bring all the
We're going to talk about some dumb stuff.
Do you have any announcements though? Do you have any
I don't have announcements other than click, like, subscribe, whatever, follow us on Blue Sky. Just help us keep ourselves going here and share us with this sort of new community. So everybody who is on Blue Sky now, we migrated over, I feel like just the last 10 days or whatever. I certainly wasn't active on there before 10 days ago. You were.
I was.
You were like,
fun.
This place is great. I'm like,
I feel like my favorite band
it.
has signed a big record label deal.
I just forgot how
it's
fun.
REM signing to the, it's what's coming.
Yeah. I forgot how fun social media could be. And you were right. This is like the old Twitter where you actually could have some fun in building your community and have a good time. I've just only listening to the shit posters right now because they are I forgot all these funny people because I couldn't see them. I just gave up on all of it a while back. So I'm kind of back a little bit, but I'm back in the manner of I just want to wake up early when I'm in my insomnia and look at these jokes that are going online. So I've retweeted some of that. But if you guys could, in our announcement section, just retweet the link to this show and talk about this show with everyone out there. Maybe we put the show, we're going to have a show account. I couldn't get into it. We
have one. It exists.
I could not get into that, Greg.
And I know the password for it. And
I tried the password. Anyway, we're going to get it worked out and, share that. So anything we can do to sort of help build community, because I do think there's all the helping and supporting your community, the real life stuff that Molly was talking to us about. And we've been talking about, you guys have been talking about that. Like, I just want to be local, get into my community and figure out meaningful ways in which I can help and make a difference, but also get the necessary resources in place for myself and my family so that we're okay. So it was wonderful to hear that from Molly tonight of like, okay, yes, that is the right direction of thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So we can think about our online community as well. And like, what do we need to keep the conversation healthy, to keep one another, to look out for one another, and to help share and spread things around. So that's it. That's my announcement. Let's support one another in the new Blue Sky space. That's it.
I agree. I also want to say we're off next week. It is Thanksgiving. So we're going to take the week off because we need to regroup a little bit. We need to like marshal our forces and our energies. As you might have observed, we have been rerunning media for the last couple of weeks because it's too much. Like it's just nothing's funny is happening. So it's hard to find funny. We're like,
how can we top that? Right? Like, look at this thing we did 2 years ago and that's so prescient today.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes. We have a lot in the queue that we need to polish and finish and get ready for you guys. And
not the Q like QAnon Q, like just
not the Q like QAnon, but the Q like in the Q.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to our last topic. I'm going to put the timer back on.
Okay. We'll put the timer on.
Okay. Unless you have anything else, I think we're good, right?
I've got nothing else except for that it's Thanksgiving. We're not going to see everybody for Thanksgiving. And we want to say that we are thankful for you watching the show, making the community so special, subscribing to the show, joining the show, all of these things. We appreciate you and we're very thankful. That's what I have to say. That's my announcement. Okay. Last topic.
Okay, I forgot that incredible segue that Molly gave us now because the tequila. But she also brought up subversion of like these were really subversive tactics in the negative sense. But we were talking today in our production meeting about the nobility of subversion, right? So how can we be subversive?
Because we're on the bad guy side now. So
right.
We're the subverters, damn it.
So with the bad guys coming in, what can we do? And how can we honor? And I mentioned that, following the shit posters, because literally just finding something out of the discourse of politics, or maybe it touches on it one way or another, but something that just makes me guffaw and laugh out loud, that I'm seeing that's like in a community that's building just these. I find that medicine, talk about medicine for your brain. That's it's good medicine. But and maybe we can highlight some of those shit posters, and some of the stuff they're saying that just made us laugh so hard. And we're remembering and sort of looking at Donald and, how to kind of get to him. Right?
Yeah.
So this guy, and we can use our voices. I mean, let's not forget, in our little production team here for this little show, we have been muted and blocked by this guy on the last social media platform because he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle what we were saying to him about him, and a lot of it. And with Trump, a straight up early block, even though there were a couple of people before him, but then Trump had to stop blocking people because, there was all this thing of like, I don't think the president can do that. But that kind of subversion, that kind of getting to him, and having a power and a voice, right? Looking back on it, I started to think about his whole crowd size thing a little bit differently, and connecting, and because it was this popular vote, right? They were crowing and crowing and crowing about, he won the popular vote by margins never before, blah, blah, blah. More people voted for him than ever. Blah. And we've watched that shrink right out. And as it shrinks, because more votes coming in, they're tallying more votes. It takes time to count all these votes, right? Boy, are his supporters and defenders, the people who are out there as his mouthpieces. You can watch a few of these folks, especially on social media, when they start to panic for him, right? They're panicking for him because he's got to be popular. And this light went off in my head of like in New York when he was cast, he could just never get in. They didn't want him at the Met Gala. He just couldn't get an invite to anything.
He's not Manhattan.
He's
Flushing.
He just like, no one wants you in the party, dude. You bring it down. I don't think he would have gotten even into Studio 54 if it wasn't for Roy Cohn. And the only reason Roy Cohn was getting in there is because he's not only was so depraved and probably had the best drugs, but he was the lawyer for the guys who ran the club. So the only way Donald could even get into that club was because he was holding Roy Cohn's hand like a toddler, bringing him in. Here, I'll get you in, Donald. So
I don't think that's how Roy Cohn thought of him, but go on.
I don't know what he was. If he was holding the hand, he might have been holding something else. But he went. That was his only way of sitting at the cool table. His whole life is about acceptance, about being popular. It's not about being adored. That comes at the other side of, once I'm popular, people will adore me. I really think this guy, he doesn't get the invitation to the birthday party. And that's the wound. Like that's.
Oh my God, he's Ralph Wiggum. I just realized he's Ralph Wiggum.
Yes. And I think we have to really continue to reject him on that level of just like, no. And even like, we don't want you here because you ruin the vibe.
Yeah.
You're artless. You offer nothing, right? Just that kind of subversion of like,
you're boring.
You're boring.
So fucking boring. I can't believe we wasted these years of our lives talking about this boring. The only person more boring than him is fucking Elon Musk. Jesus Christ, that guy's boring.
Oh God, the Goober Brigade. So anyway, that I would like to keep that up. I think, and look at Gates. That was like, coming internally, and I don't think it was like you don't want to be embarrassed by him not getting confirmed, because maybe that would happen. Embarrassment is part of that, right? Embarrassment is not the opposite of being adored. Embarrassment is hand in hand with being unpopular, unwanted, just unwanted. We don't want you because you embarrass yourself, and it's embarrassing to be around you. Ew, go away. Get out. Right? That we need to be bouncers.
Yeah.
That's a subversion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's every person he's ever been with has been a transaction. I think that's the way to look at it too.
Yeah.
It's like, and Musk is the same way, if Musk didn't have money, nobody would talk to him. I mean, nobody would talk to him.
Nobody would talk to him. I think, oh God, can you imagine talking to him? I think I can't even imagine that guy. Oh, that guy striking up a conversation with anybody. Oh my God. Yeah, this is the thing. I want to.
Look, sink is funny. Isn't it funny? Everyone sink. Isn't that great? I got to sink because I'm throwing the sink.
Do you get it? Do you get it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry,
these are the goobers. These are the goobers.
My wife does a very good mocking laugh at people like that. Like the
oh, good.
Nobody does it better than my wife with that.
She's got the unfuckable guffaw going on. Yeah. This is too, yeah. Get out. So anyway, that's it. Some of the shit posting, there's an account. I will look on Blue Sky right now. So everybody's got this account because I think she's amazing. Jolene. And I think it's just Jolene. I think it's.
I'm begging of you, please.
I'm begging of you,
Jolene.
please. It's Jolene Ski, S-K-I, Jolene Ski, .Blue Sky Social. She has starter packs of shit posters that are just the funniest. I subscribe to the tier 1 shit posters, and then I haven't stopped laughing. I have not stopped laughing.
That's the thing about Blue Sky too, is that there's this innocence of silliness in Twitter and cleverness that early Twitter kind of sometimes would approach, but it's quite good. There's still that element of it there. I'm sure it will be drowned out soon as the Nazis come, but yeah. Nazis are not good for humor. Nazis and humor, not really.
And I think humor is the way, because Donald doesn't have a sense of humor, and that bothers him. It bothers him
because he wants to be a stand-up comic. He thinks he's Rodney Dangerfield.
I think it's more like
he's not.
If I had watching, he's a mimic, right? So an antisocial personality disorder. When those kinds of brains are watching people laugh and socially kind of, have it going on, and oh God, those guys are funny, and they understand it. It's all going right over his head, and he doesn't know what to offer. I think that's where the crudeness and crassness came from, and why he stayed with just the guys, because I can do my locker room talk, and somehow thought that got him in with the funny, cool crowd. But really, they were just sort of like, whoa, dude, and maybe he could find one depraved rapist after the other. By the way, we didn't get a chance to talk about that. This cabinet.
Everybody, it's a BFOQ, which in HR speak stands for bona fide occupational qualification. And the bona fide occupational qualification to be in Trump's cabinet is you got to be a rapist.
You got to be an assaulter of some type. I had a thing that I did, like a little, all he's got is squat, right? And I kind of tweaked it a little bit. I tweeted it, but I tweaked it since the tweet. It's, oh God, what was it? Squat, quacks, spies, Tulsi.
Okay.
Spies, quacks, assaulters, and thieves.
That's good. I like that. Yeah.
That's all he's got. He's got a bunch of squat.
I want it to be, can we spell kooks with a K and make it scat? Because that would be better.
We can spell scat.
I like it to be scat.
Cons.
I like it to be that.
Yeah.
People are saying Gorka is going to come back, which is good because I have a really good Gorka ad that Chunk has never animated. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to dig deep into the vault. I forgot my announcements. I want to show off my shirt. That's cool.
Okay.
I wore this at our event. See, I made this myself. This is a book cover of Justine by Lawrence Durrell, which is from the Alexandria Quartet, which is a really great series of books. So
it's
that's
cool
all.
and obscure.
It's
just
cool
like
and
you.
obscure. Obscure
Just like you.
is always cool. That's the thing, right?
Just like you. All right, hang on.
Yeah. Okay.
Jolene, I'm trying to find.
You can't find Jolene now?
Well, what was the one? There was one meme that made me die. It was a meme of like an outlet with a fork.
Oh, the outlet. Yeah.
An outlet with a fork, like right up to it, and the post was, right? Would it be okay if I came over to your house and did this? And for some reason, that just set me off. So again, just totally, stuff that's just not. It's not political in any way, but there to just make us.
You know what the message that it kind of sends to us is?
Like here, unless it comes from the Squirt region in France, it's sparkling pee. And the things I won't do to feel alive, just stuff like that. That's just funny. Folks that are worth a follow. And I think it's worth it to us as we build this new online community.
Comedy is good. We like comedy.
Put comedy right at the top of the list.
Because if we put comedy at the top of the list, what does that mean, LB?
I think it means we're going to get through it.